Imagine vanishing without a trace. No explanation, no clues, just gone. Every year, thousands of people go missing, but some cases stand out as truly terrifying. Cases where people disappear under impossible circumstances, where security cameras fail to capture the truth, where final words leave behind more questions than answers. These are the stories that haunt families, baffle investigators, and leave the world wondering, how can someone just disappear? Here are some of the scariest missing person cases of all time. The disappearance of Brandon Swanson. On May 14, 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson disappeared without a trace, leaving behind one of the most baffling missing person cases in modern history. What makes his story particularly unsettling is that he was talking to his father on the phone when he vanished. Brandon was a college student in Marshall, Minnesota, studying wind energy at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. That night he had been celebrating the end of the semester with friends in two different locations, the town of Canby and later in Marshall. He left Marshall around midnight to drive home to his family's house in Lind, a small town about 30 minutes away. But somewhere along the way, something went terribly wrong. At around 1:54 a.m., Brandon called his parents, telling them he had driven into a ditch on a back road and needed a ride home. He assured them he was unharmed, but frustrated because his car was stuck. His parents, Brian and Annette Swanson, got into their car and drove out to find him. Based on Brandon's description, they assumed he was near Lind, just a few miles away. But when they arrived at the location he described, there was no sign of him or his car. Brandon stayed on the phone with his father while they both tried to figure out where he actually was. His parents flashed their headlights and honked the horn, asking if he could see or hear them, but he couldn't. The confusion mounted as Brandon insisted he knew exactly where he was, yet he wasn't there. Frustrated, Brandon decided to walk towards a friend's house in the nearby town of Lind. He estimated it would take about 30 minutes and told his father to pick him up there. As he walked, he remained on the phone with his dad, chatting about his route and reassuring him that he was fine. This call lasted 47 minutes. Then suddenly his tone changed. Brandon swore, "Oh, shit," and the call ended abruptly. His father tried calling back, but there was no answer. Brian Swanson immediately got in his car and drove around searching, calling his son's phone over and over, but Brandon was gone. The next day, authorities launched a massive search. They eventually found Brandon's abandoned car, but shockingly, it was located near Taunton, Minnesota, nearly 25 miles away from where he had told his parents he was. This meant he had been completely lost while on the phone with them. Search teams, helicopters, and K-9 units scoured the area, focusing on fields, rivers, and wooded areas. The most alarming theory emerged when bloodhounds followed Brandon's scent from the car to the edge of the Yellow Medicine River, a shallow but fast-moving stream. The scent trail continued past the river for another mile before abruptly stopping. Did he drown? Or did something or someone take him? Despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of Brandon was ever found. His phone remained active for hours after the call ended, but it never pinged a new location. Some believe he fell into the river and drowned. But if that were the case, why has his body never surfaced? Others suspect foul play, suggesting that perhaps he encountered someone dangerous in the dark. The most haunting part of the case remains those final words. Oh, shit. What did he see? What happened in that exact moment? To this day, the disappearance of Brandon Swanson remains one of the most chilling mysteries in America. His parents never stopped searching for answers, pushing for new laws that require better responses to missing adult cases. But the truth? It's still out there, somewhere in the dark, just like Brandon that night. The vanishing of Maura Murray. On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, vanished without a trace after crashing her car on a snowy road in rural New Hampshire. The eerie circumstances surrounding her disappearance have sparked endless speculation and theories. But to this day, no one knows what truly happened to Maura. That Monday, Maura sent an email to her professors, claiming there had been a death in the family and that she would be gone for a few days. However, there was no death in her family. Instead, she withdrew $280 from an ATM, bought alcohol, packed up some belongings, and drove north toward the White Mountains. She didn't tell anyone where she was going or why. At around 7:27 p.m., a local woman in Haverhill, New Hampshire, heard a loud crash outside her home. She looked out the window and saw a car, Maura's black Saturn, stuck in a snowbank. The front end was damaged, but the driver was still inside. Concerned, the woman called the police. At the same time, a school bus driver named Butch Atwood drove past and saw Maura standing by her car. He stopped and asked if she needed help. She seemed shaken but insisted she was fine and that she had already called for roadside assistance. This wasn't true. No such call had been made. Minutes later, when police arrived at the scene, Maura was gone. Her car was still there, locked, with her belongings inside, including her ATM card, a bottle of wine, and an unopened box of Franzia wine. The car keys and her cell phone were missing. A search of the area turned up no sign of her. Despite freezing temperatures, there were no fresh footprints leading away from the road. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. In the following days, police and volunteers combed the woods, fields, and frozen rivers near the crash site. Dogs tracked her scent, but lost it abruptly about 100 yards from her car near a fork in the road. This suggested she may have gotten into another vehicle. But if she did, with whom and why? Theories about Maura's disappearance have run wild over the years. Some believe she was abducted, possibly by someone who offered her a ride that night. Others think she staged her disappearance to start a new life. A darker theory suggests she may have succumbed to the elements while wandering in the freezing cold, though no remains have ever been found. Then there's the possibility of foul play. Maura had been acting strangely in the days leading up to her disappearance. A few days before she vanished, she had an emotional breakdown at work for reasons that remain unclear. On the night she went missing, she had alcohol in her car, leading some to believe she may have been drinking and feared getting into trouble. But would she really abandon her car in the middle of the night, in freezing temperatures, with no clear destination? One of the most chilling aspects of this case is that there were reported sightings of a mysterious man in the area around the same time. Some locals claim to have seen a suspicious figure near the crash site, but no solid leads ever emerged. Over the years, Maura's family has tirelessly searched for answers, but none have surfaced. Her father, Fred Murray, has spent nearly 2 decades pleading for more investigation, believing his daughter was the victim of foul play. Despite numerous searches, no evidence has ever been found. No body, no clothing, no phone, nothing. The case remains open, and Maura remains one of the most famous missing persons in the United States. Whatever happened that night on a cold, deserted road in New Hampshire, one thing is certain: Maura Murray is still out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. The mysterious case of Lars Mittank. In 2014, 28-year-old Lars Mittank, a German tourist, vanished in one of the most bizarre and chilling disappearances ever caught on camera. What started as a simple vacation with friends in Bulgaria turned into a nightmare that no one can explain. Lars and his friends traveled to Golden Sands, a popular resort town on the coast of the Black Sea. It was supposed to be a fun trip filled with beach outings and parties. Everything was going fine until Lars got into a minor altercation with some other German tourists at a bar. It didn't seem serious at the time, but later that night, while walking back to his hotel alone, he was reportedly attacked by a group of local men. He was hit in the head, suffering an injured eardrum. The injury wasn't severe, but when he went to a doctor, he was advised not to fly home with his friends because the air pressure might cause complications. His friends had to leave, so Lars decided to stay behind for a few more days until he could safely fly. But after that, his behavior took a disturbing turn. He became increasingly paranoid. He called his mother and told her he was being followed, that someone wanted to kill him. He checked into a cheap hotel near the airport but barely stayed in his room. Staff reported seeing him pacing the hallways, looking over his shoulder, hiding. Security footage showed him creeping around as if he was being hunted. In one frantic phone call to his mother, he whispered, "I have to get out of here. They're coming for me." His mother, terrified, immediately booked him a flight home to Germany for the next morning. She just wanted her son to get back to safety. On July 8, 2014, Lars arrived at Varna Airport in Bulgaria, preparing to fly back. At first, everything seemed normal. He was seen walking through the terminal, calm, carrying his backpack. But then, something happened. As he waited for his flight, an airport doctor approached him for a final checkup on his ear injury. Suddenly, without warning, Lars stood up, his expression filled with panic. Then he ran. Security footage captured the shocking moment. Lars sprinted out of the terminal, leaving his luggage behind. He ran past the airport parking lot and into an open field. Then he reached the airport's barbed wire fence, a tall metal barrier designed to keep people out. But Lars climbed over it. He didn't stop. He ran into a nearby forest and disappeared into the trees. And no one has seen him since. To this day, his case remains a haunting mystery. No trace of him has ever been found. No belongings, no remains, no clues. His mother, Maura Mittank, still searches for answers. Over the years, people have claimed to have seen him in different countries, but none of these sightings have ever been confirmed. There are many theories about what happened to Lars. Some believe he suffered a sudden mental health breakdown, possibly schizophrenia or drug-induced psychosis, though there is no evidence he had a history of such issues. Others suspect he really was in danger, perhaps being followed by someone who wanted to harm him. Some even believe he witnessed something he wasn't supposed to see and was trying to escape. And then there's the possibility that he ran into the forest and never made it out. But if that were the case, why has no trace of him ever been found? Whatever happened to Lars Mittank, one thing is certain. Something terrified him so much that he chose to run into the unknown rather than stay one more minute in that airport. And the world is still waiting to find out why. The bizarre disappearance of Bryce Lespisa. On August 30th, 2013, 19-year-old Bryce Lespisa disappeared under circumstances so strange that even a decade later, no one knows what truly happened to him. One day, he was a normal college student. The next, he was driving aimlessly for hours, acting strangely, and then vanished without a trace. His abandoned car was found wrecked at the bottom of a remote embankment, but Bryce was nowhere to be found. What happened to him remains one of the most baffling missing person cases in modern history. Bryce was a college sophomore at Sierra College in Rocklin, California, where he was studying graphic design. He was described as funny, friendly, and close to his parents, who lived in Laguna Niguel, a city about 7 hours south. In the weeks leading up to his disappearance, his behavior changed. His friends noticed that he had started drinking heavily, so much that his roommate was concerned. Bryce had also begun taking Vyvanse, a medication used to treat ADHD, despite not having a prescription. The drug can cause insomnia, mood swings, and erratic behavior, which seemed to be affecting him. On August 27th, Bryce's behavior took a turn for the worse. His girlfriend, Kim, noticed that something was seriously wrong. He was acting detached and erratic, and when she asked if he was okay, he abruptly broke up with her via text message. That same night, his roommate called Bryce's mother, Karen, telling her he was worried about Bryce's mental state. Karen spoke to her son, and he assured her he was fine. But just hours later, at 11:30 p.m., Bryce suddenly got in his car and drove off without explanation. By the next morning, his parents expected him to be home. But Bryce never arrived. Instead, he had driven hundreds of miles south, but then stopped in a small town called Buttonwillow, just a few hours from his parents' house. He had been sitting in his car for hours, seemingly doing nothing. A concerned roadside assistance worker named Christian spotted him and called his parents, who convinced Bryce to continue his drive home, but he didn't. For over 13 hours, Bryce remained in the same area, just sitting in his car, making no move to go home. His mother, worried, called him repeatedly, urging him to keep driving. He kept saying, "I'm coming home," but he never did. Then, at 2 a.m. on August 30th, Bryce finally started driving again. His mother assumed he would arrive home soon. But at 5:30 a.m., police found his car wrecked at the bottom of a steep embankment near Castaic Lake. The back window was shattered, and Bryce's belongings, his wallet, phone, and laptop, were still inside. But Bryce was gone. There was no sign of him anywhere. Search teams scoured the area for days. Helicopters, bloodhounds, and divers searched the lake, but there was no trace of Bryce. No blood was found in the car, and there were no signs of a struggle. It was as if he had just walked away. To this day, no one knows where he went or what was going through his mind. Some believe he had a psychotic break, either from drug use or an underlying mental illness, and wandered into the wilderness. Others think he staged his disappearance and is still alive somewhere, and some fear something more sinister happened, that he met someone or something after the crash that led to his fate. Years later, occasional sightings of young men resembling Bryce have been reported, but none have been confirmed. His parents still hold out hope that one day their son will be found. But for now, Bryce Laspisa remains missing, lost somewhere in the California wilderness or beyond, leaving only a wrecked car and a million unanswered questions behind. The chilling disappearance of Asha Degree. On a cold, rainy night in February 2000, a little girl named Asha Degree packed her backpack, left her home in the middle of the night, and walked into the darkness, never to be seen again. She was just 9 years old. What makes her case so terrifying is that no one knows why she left or where she was going. No one saw anything unusual before that night. And to this day, despite countless searches, Asha has never been found. Asha lived in Shelby, North Carolina, with her parents and older brother. She was a shy, well-behaved girl who loved reading, basketball, and spending time with her family. Her parents were strict but loving, keeping a close eye on their children. Asha wasn't the type to run away. She had no history of behavioral issues or conflicts at home. Everything about her life seemed completely normal. On the night of February 13, 2000, Asha went to bed as usual. Her family had spent the day at church and later celebrated Valentine's Day early, exchanging gifts. That night a storm rolled in, and the power briefly went out. But nothing unusual happened. Then, in the early morning hours of February 14th, something unexplainable happened. At 2:30 a.m., Asha's father checked on her and saw that she was asleep in bed. But sometime between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., she got up, quietly packed a small backpack with clothes, a few personal items, and her favorite Tweety Bird purse. Then she walked out of the house. No one heard her leave. No one knows why she left. It was pitch black, cold, and raining outside. Asha had no history of sleepwalking. She had never run away before. And yet there she was, walking alone down Highway 18, a dangerous road with no streetlights. Two drivers spotted her walking along the highway. One of them turned around, concerned for the small child walking alone in the rain. But as he approached, Asha ran off into the woods. That was the last time anyone ever saw her. By morning, Asha's mother went to wake her up for school, only to find her bed empty. Panic set in immediately. A frantic search of the house revealed that some of Asha's clothes were missing, along with her backpack. Her parents called the police, and by noon, a full-scale search was underway. For hours, searchers combed through the woods, ditches, and fields surrounding the highway. They found no footprints, no signs of a struggle. Nothing. It was as if Asha had vanished into thin air. Then, a clue emerged. A mile from her house, searchers found Asha's hair bow near the road. It confirmed she had been there, walking in the darkness all alone. Days passed with no sign of her. The case seemed to be at a standstill, until a year and a half later. In August 2001, a construction crew working 30 miles away found something disturbing. Asha's backpack. It was buried in plastic and contained her school supplies and a New Kids on the Block t-shirt, one that didn't belong to her. The discovery confirmed one terrifying fact. Someone had taken her. But who? And why? Investigators have never been able to answer those questions. Asha was a shy, obedient child. There was no sign she was unhappy or planning to leave home. She didn't use the internet, didn't talk to strangers, and had no known problems at school. So why did she leave that night? There are theories, but no concrete answers. Some believe someone lured Asha out of her house, perhaps through letters or phone calls that her parents didn't know about. Others think she ran away for an unknown reason, but was later abducted. Despite massive searches, numerous leads, and years of investigation, no one has ever found Asha Degree. Her parents still cling to hope, believing their daughter is alive somewhere. But the mystery of why she walked into the night and disappeared remains one of the most chilling missing person cases in history. The unsettling disappearance of Brian Schaffer. On the night of April 1, 2006, 27-year-old Brian Schaffer walked into a bar in Columbus, Ohio, and was never seen again. Security footage showed him entering the bar, but never leaving. No one saw him leave, and no one knows what happened to him. His case remains one of the most perplexing disappearances in modern history, with no evidence, no leads, and no trace of Brian ever found. Brian was a second-year medical student at Ohio State University. He was described as intelligent, friendly, and well-liked. He had a serious girlfriend, was doing well in school, and was planning a vacation to Miami with his girlfriend, Alexis, just a few days after his disappearance. By all accounts, his life was on track. But March 31, 2006, was a difficult day for Brian. His mother had recently passed away from cancer, and he was struggling with grief. That evening, despite feeling tired, he decided to go out with his friend William Clint Florence for a night of drinking. They started at a few local bars before heading to the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a popular college hangout near campus. At around 1:15 a.m., security cameras captured Brian entering the bar. He was seen talking to two women inside, smiling and appearing in good spirits. His friend Clint later said they lost track of him for a bit, assuming he was mingling or in the restroom. Then, at 1:55 a.m., the bar was closing, and everyone was asked to leave. Clint and another friend waited outside for Brian, but he never came out. At first they assumed he had left on his own, possibly heading home or meeting up with his girlfriend. But Brian was never seen again. The truly disturbing part? Security footage never captured him leaving the bar. The police combed through hours of surveillance video from every exit of the Ugly Tuna Saloona. They saw Brian enter, but never leave. The bar's main entrance was covered by security cameras, and he was not seen exiting that way. The only other way out was a back exit, which led to a construction site with no safe way to leave unnoticed. If he had left through there, he would have been caught on another nearby camera. But he wasn't. It was as if Brian had vanished into thin air. His phone was never used again. His credit cards, bank accounts, and social media went silent. He missed his planned trip to Miami with his girlfriend. No remains, no personal belongings, no signs of foul play. Nothing was ever found. As time went on, theories began to emerge. Some believe Brian left voluntarily, escaping to start a new life. However, this theory doesn't make sense. He had no known reason to disappear, and he left behind a grieving father, a serious girlfriend, and a promising career. Others believe he was murdered inside the bar, and that his body was somehow hidden or removed without detection. But with security footage constantly recording, how could someone carry out such a crime unnoticed? And why? Then there's the theory that Brian somehow slipped through the construction site behind the bar and met with foul play. This is one of the more plausible theories, as there were dangerous alleyways and places where someone could be attacked. But again, no body was ever found. One of the strangest details of the case is the behavior of his friend, Clint. Over the years, Clint refused to take a polygraph test and stopped cooperating with police, leading to speculation that he knew more than he was saying. However, no evidence has ever linked him to Brian's disappearance. Years have passed, but the mystery of how Brian Schaffer entered a bar and never left continues to haunt those who knew him. His father never gave up searching for him but tragically passed away in 2008, never knowing what happened to his son. To this day, no one knows where Brian Schaffer is, how he vanished, or why no one ever saw him leave. Was it an accident? Foul play? A secret plan to disappear? Whatever the answer is, Brian Schaffer walked into the ugly Tuna Saloona and was never seen again.